Hello and welcome back to StarCraft 2. As you can see, I'm playing as ZvZ on Shakuras Plateau against a guy called Sasquatch. Very interesting nickname there. And let me just warn you, a bit of a disclaimer before going into this. This is in fact me playing, for those that didn't know, firstly. Okay, my nickname on Battle.net is Shadow Thief. I play on the EU servers. And I haven't played for a long time. I played a couple of games today and they all ended quite badly. I must say I'm probably playing at like bronze level now. Okay, maybe not exactly bronze level, but I'm playing really badly. I guess I'm just not getting enough practice in at the moment, and I'm probably going to try get a bit more in. I'm just getting really frustrated. I mean, I guess you guys can let me know if this ever happens to you, but I mean, you have bad days every now and then. Just a day that you play and the whole world seems to be against you. You keep doing everything that you possibly could wrong, and all your games just end horribly and you die a swift death. So ZvZ, and as I said on Shakuras Plateau, we all know that he's not going to spawn directly vertically below me, so to the south of my base he won't be there. He'll either be to the left, and I can see that he's to the left now because I can see his overlord scooching across the map, so I quickly redirect my drone. The reason I'm actually scouting with a drone early is because I'm very scared of those 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 pulls. It's very frustrating, and a lot of Zergs do it on the ladder. I'm in Diamond League at the moment, and I come across it quite often. So I was going to go for a standard fast expand here, regardless of what he was doing. Hopefully he wasn't going to 6-pull, and I think I was pretty lucky in that sense, because as I said, I've been facing off against it a lot. And another thing I was pretty lucky with is that he didn't actually get to deny my expansion. But yeah, anyway, that's not really that important. I mean, you can just use a couple of drones there, or put your pull down if he does in fact manage to block it. So I realized, I noticed he had his pull going up, he had his gas up already, and I can't say I was really afraid of the fact that his pull was up as soon as it was, because this map is quite big, and I mean, I was about to throw my pull down now. His was probably about 3/4 done, I think, when I threw mine down. So I think by the time his Zerglings got here, I would have had enough to deal with it, and then you still have the drones as well. So again, when you're scouting around here, I guess I'll just tell you everything that I think I could have done differently here, or that I did right, I suppose. But when you're scouting around here, it's a good thing to just watch those larvae. You can see I'm even selecting them there. I don't even know why. I guess I'm just trying to be a bit of a clown here. But you can just watch. I saw his pool finished and he didn't immediately train Zerglings, so I was quite happy with that. I knew that I was safe, for the time being at least. And another thing that you got to keep your eye on at least is get your overlords in good positions. With ZvZ, one thing people don't realize very often is that you can actually cover pretty much the entire map quite safely with your overlords. And I suppose he got bit in the butt a little bit later by doing that, but he still won the game. And yes, he did in fact win this game. I played terribly. So what I did here, the reason behind throwing down those spine crawlers is because I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna just defend up a bit, like get a bit of defense up, get those spine crawlers up, and then I'll feel safe and feel like sort of ready to drone up and get my economy running. And I mean, I feel 3 or 4 spine crawlers at your ramp is never really a bad thing, because they can really turn the tides. Especially when roaches are involved, they do quite. I mean, I think 3 or 4 spine crawlers can hold a decent-sized force of roaches off, especially if you got a couple of queens out. So that's obviously the reason I put those down there. And the problem I had in this game, and I think my main problem in many of my games, is I'm not decisive enough. And not in the sense of when I attack, I want to finish it then and there. I just don't choose a strat and stick with it. I don't always know what I'm going for. Okay, I think that's the best way to explain it. So in this, I was going for sort of a macro game. I was going to try go for an econ-based start, and it didn't work out too well. I actually watched the replay after this, and I did see that he was ahead of me in drones. I mean, that's normal when you fast expand versus one base, but he was quite far ahead. He really was, and I think that's obviously just because he knew I was going to fast expand. But when I saw these roaches come in, I was again pretty happy with that fact, and I mean, I felt pretty safe. You can see I didn't even overreact here by getting a bunch of Zerglings out or anything like that. I didn't try waste all the minerals I had. Not that I had very many, but I slowly but surely started getting a couple of roaches out. But because I had these spine crawlers up, as I said, I felt pretty safe. So what I should have done here was I should have actually just droned up as hard as I possibly could, and I really mean droning up incredibly hard, because when a player moves all the way across the map like that, pokes into your base and turns around immediately, then that sort of tells you that he wasn't really planning on committing to it fully. So perhaps he was just pushing across to make sure I wasn't amassing a force, trying to surprise him, catch him off guard. And I assume this was about the time that he threw down his own expansion. So again, coming back to that indecisiveness that I had. And there you go, I actually spotted his expansion. Good position for the Overlord there, by the way. Very good position. So back to the indecisiveness, I was again sitting here with a couple of roaches out. Now that's good and all. That's a good amount to defend with for this early part of the game. But I wasn't really getting as many drones as I should have. I had an opportunity here to drone up, but I really wasn't using it to its fullest. And another thing is, I sort of knew that this was going to degenerate, and I say that because I really don't enjoy it, but degenerate into a roach versus roach brawl, if you will. And I knew I had to get upgrades out. So knowing that, and the fact that I've actually got these 2 bases up already, I should have really thrown down 2 Evo chambers instead of 1. And that's another place where my opponent actually caught me out again. So I saw him putting down his gas at his expansion over there, and I just assumed he had his mains gas running as well. So that could have been a tell. I mean, I could have realized that he was probably going to go for Infestor play. He was probably going to get more upgrades than me because I wasn't really maxing the gas. And look at the drones on my main. That is not a good amount of drones. I really should have been working harder at that. And there was a point in this game where I realized that. And you don't realize these things when you're playing, okay? Things like this, just you don't think of it. You don't think to yourself, okay, I should be droning up, okay, I should be getting the upgrades, okay, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. That's just, it doesn't cross my mind when I'm doing this. I'm sort of caught in the moment, and I can't think of everything I should be thinking of. So what I did spot was that he was moving his overlords across the map quite nicely. He had a good spread over there, and I was going to think to myself already, okay, I want to do something about that. My plan here was to get a couple of mutas out, and then go overlord hunting, because with the amount of the overlords that were actually out on the map, I thought to myself, you know, it could work quite well. Now, what I do think I did wrong again is I didn't tech to lair fast enough, and that just comes straight back to the point, and that's sort of the theme of this episode, or this cast that I'm doing, is that when you're coming into a ZvZ, and most specifically a ZvZ actually, you have to have a game plan. You have to know what you want to do, and you sort of have to stick with it. Sure, you're going to have to change things based on what your opponent does, because it is an incredibly reactive race, but at the same time, it feels to me like when I was playing this game, I didn't have that laid out plan. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and I definitely got punished for that, because, you know, I'm still not, if you look at what I'm getting at the moment, I'm still not really getting a lot of roaches out. As you can see, this is that point that I spoke about where I actually droned up really hard. I got a lot of drones out, and I was sort of happy with my income at this point. And this is about where I wanted to throw down my third, because when you get to 10, 11, 12 minutes into the game, you got to think about it, especially if your saturation is as good as mine is right now. So I should have thought of that a little bit earlier. I did expand, but it wasn't soon enough. And again, another thing that I always do is I have this feeling of comfort when I'm playing, and it's really bad. Because if you look at if you sort of pause here, I'm not going to pause, but if you just sort of look at the game, at the state of the game right now, look at what my opponent's doing. He's flying his overlord around my base, his overseer, sorry, but he's getting good intel. You can see what I've got. He probably saw that I've only got about 10 roaches over there, and have a look at what I can see of his base. Absolutely nothing. Zero, nada, zilch. I can't see anything. I don't know what he's doing. He could have had Ultralisks out already. He could have been going Broodlords. He could have been massing a force of Mutalisks, for all I knew. All I knew at the moment was that he was at tier 2, and he had expanded once. I didn't know if he expanded a third time. I have no idea about that. I don't know about the state of his upgrades. Nothing like that. And my own game is not really, you know, getting as much direction as it should. I'm again getting a couple more roaches out, which is all good, because I sort of expected the fight to go to that, but I wasn't playing the way that Zerg is supposed to be played, and I suppose I should switch to Protoss or Terran, because, you know, you can do blind strats a bit easier with them. But, you know, that's one of the things I really have to work at. So you can see my Spire is up. I am in fact getting those Mutalisks out, and that's good. That's really good, but I didn't have a backup plan for that. The Mutalisks would have hunted down the Overlords, and I would have supply capped my opponent. And at the moment, I can tell you that that would have been a frustration to him, and probably nothing more. So I had a nice little queue of overlords to kill there, and I was happy with that. Okay, that's probably the only good thing that I did in this game. The other good thing was actually getting my third up and saturate my mineral lines eventually. So, I mean, looking at it again, at this point in the game, at 14 minutes, he could have been maxed 200 already. And again, I wasn't scouting, I didn't know that. So I can make a really long checklist here of things that I could have done differently. I think that I could have probably defended this third a little bit better. I could have thrown down a few spine crawlers. I could have transferred a couple of drones over from my main to my third, because that would have made a big difference. And again, I should have spread my overlords a bit better. A lot of things that I should have done a lot differently. So what I'm going to do when I come into the next game, and bam, okay, heart sinking feeling, seeing a force that's as big as that moving across the map, and then just comparing it to the size of my force. So one thing I was sort of happy about for a half a second here was the fact that my roaches were about to be 2-0 upgrades, and his were 1-1. I actually selected a roach there specifically to check that out. He had 1-1 upgrades, and I thought to myself, you know, okay, that's not too bad, because, you know, I'm sitting on 2-1 at the moment, or I will 2-0 at the moment, sorry, and I'll have a bit of an advantage there. But it seems like my opponent was thinking ahead, and he had a game plan, and that's obviously where I faltered. You know, I got my infestation put out, which was too late, because you should know by now that a Zerg versus Zerg, it really does, as I said, degenerate into Roach Infestor play. And here you go, the encounter happens, the fight starts, and my Roaches are in a pretty decent position. I'm not going to say it's bad, but with those Infests on them, and the fact that I actually selected one of his Roaches now and checked his upgrades, they were 2-2. Okay, so he had double Evo chambers running, and he timed his attack perfectly here. So I actually should watch this replay and sort of copy what he did, because he did everything right, and my builds, my strats that I was using here, not too great. And if you have a look at the top of the map there, those Mutalisks that I sent to his base, no, they didn't do too well either. So, I mean, I don't know if you Zerg players out there are actually going to learn anything from this. Perhaps you'll know what not to do. If I had to give you a few tips here, and I might not be the best person to give tips, because I'm losing pretty much every single game I'm playing at the moment. Yes, sure, I'm in Diamond, and I feel I know more than the average Diamond level player, but you know, if you want some tips that I can say, never be too happy with where you are at the time in the game. So just don't be too comfortable. Rather, always worry about what's coming. Always worry about the Nidus Worms, the Mutalisks, the Ultralisks. It doesn't really even matter. Just keep an eye on your opponent and make sure you know what's going on. And secondly, when you get a chance to drone up, don't hesitate to take it as a Zerg player. I mean, it really is key. All those things that I just said, and probably the most important thing, have a game plan. Know what you're going for, and don't fiddle around with 3 or 4 10 different tech paths. Don't do that. Just go for one thing until it proves ineffective. You know, you can be ready to switch over, you can be ready to change up your strat, but then again, know exactly what you want to go for, and go for it for a reason. So I hope this was slightly entertaining to you. The next cast I'm going to do is going to be one that I actually won, and yes, I actually rage quit that game there because I was getting really frustrated. I didn't say GG or anything, and that's just normally how I roll. But the next game's probably going to be a bit more positive, because it's another Zerg versus Zerg, but it was a lot more, I don't know, all-in-ish by me, and I actually won that one. So anyway, I'll get that game up soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what I did wrong, let me know what I should be doing different, and let me know if there's a foolproof Zerg versus Zerg strat, you know, a standard strat, like the Protoss 4-gate, that I can go in Zerg versus Zerg, that you would suggest that I go to sort of make the best of my games, because I really need something like that. So once again, thanks for watching, and most importantly, happy StarCrafting.